My stepdaughter mocked me in front of her friends, calling me Mom's new investment. I closed every account in her mother's name and sold the car I bought for school runs. The day she needed a ride, she understood what return on investment really meant. It was a Saturday mid-afternoon, one of those brittle Colorado days where the sunlight is sharp but empty. I had just come in from the hardware store, boots muddy, hands cracked from stripping paint off the deck. A project I never wanted but took on anyway because the old boards embarrassed Emma in front of her friends. She didn't ask me to fix them. She didn't need to. I saw the way she looked at them, like they were splinters under her skin. So I spent the weekend making it beautiful, so she could feel proud. That's the punchline. I had just walked through the front door when I heard them laughing in the living room. I didn't think to be quiet. Didn't think I'd need to. I wasn't hiding. I was coming home. But they didn't hear me, or they didn't care. And then her voice came, clear and full of venom wrapped in charm. Mom's new investment, she said, giggling. He's basically a walking loan. Laughter, not just hers. Her friends, the ones who smile at me when I drive them to practice or hand them snacks from the pantry I keep stocked. That's why she stays with him, Emma added. It's not love, it's leverage. And one of the girls, I couldn't tell who, replied, well, it's working. This place is nice. Way nicer than where we live. They laughed again, loud this time, confident. I stood there holding a bag of screws and wood filler, the door still halfway open behind me. The air inside the house was warm, but I felt cold, like I just stepped into water that wasn't mine. I waited for Hannah to say something, to correct them, to defend me. But her voice never came. She was there. I heard her. The soft rustle of laundry in the hallway. The pause in her footsteps when Emma's words landed. She heard it all. And she said nothing. That silence did more damage than the insult. That night we ate dinner in silence. Roast chicken. Her favorite. Emma passed the salad to her mother without looking up. I served the potatoes, poured the drinks, made sure everything tasted right. No one said a word about what I'd overheard. No one offered an apology. And I didn't ask for one. I just watched them, the girl I'd been helping raise, and the woman who once told me we were building a future. They looked like strangers I'd been feeding. I married Hannah 7 years ago. Emma was 10 at the time. A skinny, sharp-eyed kid with a habit of leaving rooms the second I entered them. At first, I chalked it up to loyalty. She missed her dad. That was normal, wasn't it? Chris, the biological father, was the kind of man who made absences look like sacrifice. He'd blow into town for Christmas or a birthday, take Emma out to a shiny restaurant, hand her a wrapped gift from a chain store, and vanish again. He always had a new excuse. Work, a girlfriend, a delayed flight. But he never missed a photo op. He was the father who showed up when it mattered least, and yet somehow mattered most. He was the ghost I could never outshine. In Emma's eyes, he was gold rare, dazzling, untouchable. And me? I was aluminum, useful, replaceable. The guy who fixed the sink and covered the orthodontist bills. The man who took the step in Stepfather a little too seriously. I tried. God help me, I tried. I taught her how to drive. She scrolled through her phone while I explained blind spots. I bought her art supplies, the expensive kind her father never remembered, and she let them gather dust in the closet. When she got her first period and Hannah was working late, I drove across town at 10 p.m. to get the brand she liked. She left the box on the counter and said nothing. Every gesture was a note in a symphony she refused to hear. But I kept playing. I bought the house 2 years into the marriage. It was falling apart when I signed the mortgage. Peeling paint, sunken porch, one bathroom with a cracked toilet. But I saw potential. I thought if I build something solid, they'll feel safe. If I make this house beautiful, they'll feel like it's theirs. I gutted the kitchen, ripped out the rot, laid tile on weekends and painted trim until my knuckles bled. I installed crown molding because Emma said once, offhandedly, that her friend's house had it and it looked classy. I bled for their comfort. And for what? Mom's new investment. That's all I was. Not a man. Not a father. just capital in a button-down shirt. I think part of me always knew. The signs were there. The way Emma flinched when I tried to comfort her. The way she rolled her eyes when I offered advice. The way Hannah laughed a little too hard when Emma made jokes at my expense. First, I let it slide. I told myself it was normal. A girl clinging to her real dad, a mother stuck in the middle, a house that needed time to settle. I told myself that stepfathers don't get instant love. That we're like substitute teachers. Invisible, temporary, always one wrong move from being discarded. But you can only ignore the truth for so long before it starts staining everything you touch. That Saturday, hearing her call me an investment, hearing the laughter that followed, it didn't just hurt. It confirmed what I had feared for years. I was never building a family. I was financing an illusion. And Hannah, her silence said it all. She didn't defend me. She didn't correct her daughter. She didn't even flinch. Because maybe she agreed. Maybe I was just a transaction. A way to fund the life she thought she deserved. That night, when the dishes were cleared and Emma disappeared into her room, I sat across from Hannah in the quiet kitchen. I watched her stir her tea. Her eyes didn't meet mine. I asked, "Do you think I'm an investment?" She didn't answer, just stared into the cup like she might find her courage at the bottom. When she finally spoke, her voice was tired. Teenagers say things. I nodded, but that wasn't what I asked. And she knew it. She looked away. That was her answer. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the bed I paid for, under the roof I built, next to a woman who wouldn't stand up for me. And somewhere down the hall, a girl I had tried to love like my own daughter was dreaming in a room I plastered and painted with my bare hands, calling me a joke behind closed doors. I thought about every receipt, every sacrifice, every night I stayed late at work so tuition and braces and birthday parties could happen without stress. I thought about the time Emma had the flu and I slept on the floor next to her bed just in case she woke up scared. She did. I held her hand. She didn't remember. I thought about the vacations, the new clothes, the car I was planning to buy her for graduation. A quiet surprise she didn't even know was coming. And then I thought, why? Why did I keep trying to buy love that was never for sale? That night marked the first time I let the question stay in my mouth without spitting it out. And once it settled, it grew roots. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Anger needs hope. And I didn't have any left. I was tired. Bone tired. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from labor, but from being erased every day in your own home. Mom's new investment. That sentence broke something. Not just the illusion. Not just the hope. It broke the foundation. The foundation I had spent 7 years pouring. Concrete doesn't forgive cracks. Splits, then sinks. And I knew then, this house might stand, but this family? It was already halfway buried. After that night, the one where my name was replaced by a financial metaphor, I didn't confront Emma. What would I have said? That I wasn't alone? That I was a man? She already knew that. That was the point of the joke. It wasn't ignorance. It was cruelty delivered with a smile and the smug safety of being the daughter, the one with blood ties, the one untouchable. So I didn't raise my voice. I just watched. I watched everything more carefully. And what I saw once I allowed myself to see it was rot. Years of it, crawling behind the drywall of every moment we'd shared as a family. I'd been covering Emma's tuition since the beginning. Private school. Because Hannah said public education wasn't good enough for her daughter. I agreed, of course. I always agreed. I wanted Emma to have the best. Even if that best meant my bank account bled a little thinner each month. Art classes, music lessons, therapy when she got depressed in sophomore year, all of it came through me. Quietly, consistently, and invisibly. Hannah never asked where the money came from. She just assumed it would be there. Like running water. Like heat in winter. Like me. I bought the SUV Hannah used for school runs. Leased it under my name, paid the insurance, handled the maintenance. Every time that dashboard lit up with a warning light, it was me in the garage with gloves on, Googling part numbers, elbow deep in the engine. But they never saw that part. They only saw it parked in the driveway, polished and reliable. Emma loved the car. She never thanked me for it. I wasn't asking for gratitude. I was asking for acknowledgement, a nod, a glance, some small gesture that said, I see what you do. I see that it costs you something. Instead, I got cold stares, sarcastic smiles, comments like, don't you have work? Or, shouldn't investors be quiet during dinner? That one stung. She said it when I corrected her on something small, her tone with her mother, a flippant answer she gave during a conversation. I told her to show respect. She rolled her eyes and said, investors don't give orders. Hannah said nothing, just shifted uncomfortably in her seat, as if parenting was a performance and I'd ruined the scene by speaking out of turn. That was the pattern. Emma would push. I'd respond. And Hannah, the woman who once told me I made her feel safe, would look at me like I was the problem, like I'd forgotten my place. And maybe I had. Maybe I'd started to believe I was part of this family. Not just a financier. Not just the man fixing the plumbing and balancing the budget. There was a time early on when I thought it would change. When I thought if I just worked harder, gave more, proved myself again and again, the walls would come down. Emma was younger then. There were moments, brief and fleeting, when she let her guard slip, when she laughed at one of my jokes, when she asked for help with a project, when she fell asleep on the couch and I carried her to bed without her waking. But as she got older, the distance grew. She stopped trying. And I, like a fool, kept trying harder to close the gap. I bought her a MacBook for school. I told Hannah it was for her studies, but I knew what it really was, a bribe, a silent offering, a way to say, please see me, please let me matter. Emma used it for Instagram and Netflix, and every time I asked her to do something, clean up after herself, help with dinner, take out the trash, I was met with disdain. One time, I knocked on her door to tell her dinner was ready. She opened it just enough to look me in the eye and said, is Mom not available? Then closed it before I could answer. Hannah always had a reason. She's stressed. She's going through a phase. You know how teenagers are. But these weren't teenage tantrums. They were rehearsed rejections. And Hannah, with her soft-spoken avoidance, let it happen. I kept a spreadsheet, not for revenge, for reality. A quiet place where I tracked every tuition payment, every gift, every late-night Uber I ordered to pick her up when she got stranded, every dollar moved from my account to hers. I didn't show it to anyone. I wasn't planning to. I just needed to see it, to prove to myself that I wasn't imagining things, that I had been there. I had been more than there. I had been the scaffolding, and they had built their lives without me in the picture. The breaking point came at a party. Emma's birthday, 17. She'd invited her friends, the same ones who laughed with her that Saturday. I wasn't supposed to be there, really. Hannah said it was girls only, and that I could drop by for cake if I wanted. So I did. I parked a few blocks down, picked up a bag of ice from the corner store, and drove back just as dusk was settling in. The house glowed from within. Music, laughter, warm lights. I walked in through the side gate, circled the patio, and came up the back steps. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard her voice, Emma's voice, before I stepped inside. One of her friends asked, so, is he like your real dad now, or what? Laughter. Then Emma, casual as a whisper, said, that guy? Please. He's just Mom's investor. Without him, we wouldn't live this nicely. More laughter. Someone added, must be nice having a human ATM. I stood frozen, 1 foot on the top step, bag of ice sweating in my hand. The door was cracked open. I could see Hannah through the gap, standing in the kitchen, hearing every word. She didn't correct them. She didn't say, that's not fair. She didn't say, he's more than that. She said nothing. I turned around, walked back to the car, drove for 2 hours, didn't answer my phone. When I got home that night, the party was over. The house was clean. Emma was upstairs. Hannah was in bed. She didn't ask where I went. She didn't mention what I might have heard. She just looked at me and said, don't wake her. She had a good night. And that was it. That was the moment. I realized then that I had never been part of their story. I was the background, the foundation they stood on while pretending I didn't exist. I was just the man her mom brought home. And when it came time to laugh, I was the punchline. The next morning, the house was too quiet. That kind of silence that hums, that holds a question no one wants to ask. Sunlight pushed through the blinds, cutting thin bars across the kitchen table where I sat with my coffee going cold. I hadn't slept. I didn't even try. I kept hearing the echo "Mom's investor." The phrase had weight now, gravity. It bent the air around me. Every payment, every promise, every sacrifice had been reduced to a financial metaphor. I realized, somewhere between midnight and dawn, that Emma hadn't insulted me. She had defined me, so I acted. Not in rage, that would have been easy. I acted in clarity. Cold, deliberate, surgical clarity. By 7 a.m., I was in my office. The drawer with my files was already open. I'd kept every account organized. Joint savings, tuition payments, insurance policies, car titles. The whole map of our lives lay in front of me, each line traced back to me. I clicked open the banking app. My thumb hovered over the transfer tab, and then I stopped. For years I had moved money like blood. Quietly, constantly, keeping the family alive without them knowing how fragile it all was. Now, I decided to let the body go cold. One by one, I severed the lines. The account in Hannah's name closed. The automatic tuition payments canceled. Insurance policies suspended until further notice. The car, titled in my name, listed for sale. Not out of spite, not even revenge, just mathematics. If I was an investment, then the return had failed. Time to withdraw. It took less than an hour to erase 7 years of sacrifice. A few clicks, a few quiet confirmations. The bank didn't ask why. Neither did the insurance agent. No one ever does when a man dismantles his own generosity. They just process the request, thank him for his business, and hang up. I left the office, poured another coffee, and waited. Hannah came down the stairs around 9. She looked tired, maybe hungover from her daughter's laughter. She smiled faintly, kissed my shoulder, and said, "You okay?" I said, "Fine." She didn't notice the quiet. Didn't notice that something fundamental had shifted in the air. By noon, she did. The first call was from the insurance company. "Mrs. Reed, your policy has been deactivated pending account verification." Then the tuition office emailed. Payment declined. Then the dealership. "We received a listing request for your SUV, but we need your signature, ma'am." I heard her voice from the hallway, brittle, cracking. "There must be a mistake. My husband handles those things." I almost smiled. My husband. The word sounded foreign now. She came into the office with her phone trembling in her hand. "David, what's going on?" I looked up, calm. "I stopped paying." "For what?" "For everything." Her breath caught. "What are you talking about? You can't just." "I can," I said. "And I did." Her voice rose, sharp. "David, this isn't funny. Emma's tuition, her insurance, my car. What are you doing?" "What you told me to," I said quietly. "You told me, through your silence, that I'm not part of this family. You and your daughter made it clear. I was an investment, so now I'm cashing out." She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. "Don't do this," she said finally. "Please. It'll destroy us." I nodded. "I know." I left the house for a walk. Denver mornings are cruel, bright, deceptive. The light looks clean, but it hides everything. The frost on the lawns, the exhaustion in people's eyes. I walked past houses like ours. Families behind closed doors pretending they were whole. I envied them, even knowing the lie. When I got back, Hannah was pacing. Her phone on speaker, Emma's voice coming through. "Hi." Panicked. "Mom, the school says they can't process the payment. They said they're contacting you directly. What's happening?" Hannah met my eyes while she spoke. "It's fine, sweetheart. It's just a glitch. I'll fix it." But her voice cracked on the last word. Emma said something else, sharp, and hung up. Hannah rounded on me the second the call ended. "You did this. You embarrassed her. She's crying." "She should," I said. Crying means she's feeling something real for once. Don't talk about her like that, she snapped. Then tell her not to talk about me like I'm a debit card. She froze, color draining from her face. You heard. I heard everything. David? She stepped closer, voice trembling now. She's a kid. No, I said. She's 17. Old enough to know cruelty when she uses it. You can't punish her like this. I'm not punishing her. I'm teaching her. What lesson? That nothing stays free forever. The silence stretched. She looked like she wanted to slap me, but instead she whispered, You're cruel. Maybe, I said, but you both mistook kindness for weakness, and that mistake has an invoice. That night, the house felt foreign. Every object seemed to belong to someone else, the furniture, the pictures, the air itself. I sat in the living room with the lights off, listening to Hannah sob softly upstairs. Every sound was an echo of all the things I had funded. Comfort, stability, the illusion of love. Around midnight, I poured whiskey and looked out the window. The reflection that stared back was a stranger, older, colder, stripped of excuses. For years, I had believed that patience was love, that silence was grace, that if I gave enough, endured enough, they would see me. But they never did. The next morning, the real storm began. Emma came home early. She must have skipped class. Her car screeched into the driveway, music blaring. She slammed the door, marched into the house, her face red and streaked with tears. What did you do? She screamed. I didn't answer. I let her fill the silence. My tuition's canceled. My card doesn't work. Everyone's asking if I'm being kicked out. Maybe you are, I said. Her voice cracked. You can't do this to me. I already did. She turned to her mother, desperate. Mom, fix this. Hannah looked small, helpless. Emma, honey, he stopped paying. I can't. Emma stared at her, then back at me. Why? Why are you doing this? Because, I said quietly, I finally believe you. Believe me, that I'm just Mom's investment. Her lip trembled. For the first time in years, she didn't have a comeback. You think money makes you powerful? She spat finally. You're pathetic. I smiled, slow and tired. No, I think money makes me necessary. And I just learned how to stop being that. She stormed off, door slamming hard enough to rattle the glass. Hannah followed her, shouting my name, begging me to talk. But there was nothing left to say. By evening, I'd sold the SUV, signed the paperwork, handed the keys to a stranger, and walked home. I didn't tell Hannah. She found out the next morning when she went to drive Emma to school and saw the empty space in the driveway. Her scream echoed down the street. Later, she found me in the kitchen, calm, composed, stirring sugar into my coffee. You destroyed everything, she said. No, I replied. I just stopped funding the lie. She looked at me for a long time. Then, quietly, she said, You're not the man I married. I met her eyes. You're right. That man believed love was enough. She left the room. The door clicked shut behind her. Through the window, I saw Emma waiting at the bus stop in the rain. For once, she looked small. Not cruel, not confident, just small. And in that image, I saw the truth. She was learning. Finally learning what it means when the safety net disappears. I watched her until the bus came. She didn't look back. The world she lived in had been built on my effort. And now she would see how quickly it collapsed without it. It's been 3 weeks since I stopped being their provider. The house is quiet now. Not peaceful, not yet. Just quiet in that hollow, shell of itself way. Like a church after the congregation has left. Empty pews, cold air. Ghosts that sit in silence where the living used to sing. Hannah hasn't spoken to me in days. Not in full sentences. She moves through the rooms like someone else lives here. Careful not to touch anything. Like the house might collapse under her fingers. She still cooks sometimes. Still loads the dishwasher. Still folds laundry like it matters. But when she places the shirts in my drawer, she doesn't look at me. She hasn't asked for the SUV back. She hasn't asked me to reinstate the tuition, or the insurance, or the accounts. Because somewhere deep down, she knows the answer. She knows the man who carried her family is gone. Not moved out. Not dead. Just done. Emma hasn't been home since that morning at the bus stop. I heard she's staying with a friend. I don't know if she's gone back to school. I don't know if she has a plan. I do know she hasn't messaged me. No calls. No apologies. No letters slipped under the door with trembling handwriting. I know why. Pride is a disease in this house. Her mother gave it to her. The kind that makes you choke before you ever say, "I'm sorry," and I won't go chasing her. Not anymore. Because the truth is, I'm not angry. I'm not. Anger would mean I still wanted something from them. Still hoped for repair. But I don't. I've slipped into a different kind of clarity, the kind that comes after the bleeding stops. When the body goes numb. When you can look at your own wounds and think, this is just skin now. This is just memory. I sit in the living room most nights. No TV. Just the quiet hum of a house exhaling. Sometimes I go through the receipts, not to tally, not to prove anything. Just to remind myself I wasn't crazy. That I gave. That I was there. And I was there when Emma broke her wrist in 7th grade. I was the one who carried her to the car, who argued with the ER staff about insurance coverage, who sat beside her until the morphine kicked in and her eyes closed like the world finally stopped spinning. She called for her dad once. In the haze. Said, "Tell Daddy I'm scared." He never showed. Never called. I stayed all night. I was there when Hannah lost her job for 4 months. I picked up extra shifts, took freelance work I hated, dipped into my savings, not because she asked. She never had to, because it was the right thing, because that's what you do for family. I was there when Emma didn't make the soccer team, when she failed her driver's test, when she cried in her room and threw her textbooks across the hall. I knocked softly. I never pushed. I just waited. Sat on the floor outside her door with a glass of water and a quiet presence. She never opened it. I still waited. And for what? For this? For a daughter who called me an investment? For a wife who watched her do it? No, no more. I think back to the man I used to be, the one who thought effort earned affection. The one who thought stability was enough. That if you showed up, day after day, eventually you'd be invited in. That man is gone. He died the moment I realized I wasn't invited into this family. I was bought into it. And like anything bought, I could be sold off when I lost value. Now that the house is quiet, I can hear things I couldn't before. Like my own breathing. Like my thoughts. Like the echo of every time I said, "It's okay. I understand." When what I really meant was, "This is K*ling me." I think about what it cost me. Not just the money. Though God knows the ledger is long. Tuition, gifts, the roof, the car, the food, the utilities, the vacations. All of it mine. All of it offered without condition. A bloodless offering to a family that never considered me more than useful. But no, the real cost was spiritual. Emotional. It was the erosion of identity. Of dignity. Of being a man who could walk into his own home and not feel like an intruder. That's what I lost. And now? Now I sit in a house I paid for, surrounded by things I fixed, under a roof I raised, and for the first time in years it feels honest. Not happy. Not healed. Just honest. Because it's empty in all the ways it was before. But now at least the lie is gone. They haven't asked to come back. They haven't asked for forgiveness. I wonder what they're telling people. Maybe Emma says I went crazy. That I had a breakdown. That I lashed out because she was growing up. Maybe Hannah blames midlife. Says I became bitter, controlling, unpredictable. That's fine. Let them write the story. Let them tell the world what they need to survive. I'm not rewriting it. Because here's the truth. I gave. They took. And when I stopped giving, they called it cruelty. But it wasn't. It was clarity. It was consequence. And if Emma never returns, if Hannah never speaks to me again, if the story ends with everyone walking away, then so be it. I will not fund contempt. I will not subsidize disrespect. And I will not stand in a house where I'm nothing but a bank account in shoes. I don't know what comes next. Maybe divorce. Maybe years of silence. Maybe I'll remarry someday, or maybe I'll stay alone and breathe easier in a space where I don't have